If you can use this equation, you're going to be able to basically scale as quickly as you can. And the more times you can have good judgment and tell your team and show your team how to have good judgment, the faster you'll scale. So it's basically going and mapping out your business. You're mapping out the constraints of your business, and then looking at this system, as a team. So let's just say this is the capacity, and then this is the flow, right? This is the capacity of each of these steps of this process. Customers flow in, customers come out, and every time they come out, you make money. You're going to be limited by whatever is the constraint here. No matter if you have or can handle and do so much, there's going to be this backlog of tasks, backlog of things, and then people will sit in there and be mad. So what we do is we basically say, hey, this system has this theoretical max. So if this is how many hours of input takes to run that, and this only needs 5 hours of input. I'm just saying this for easy math. Let's say it only takes 1 hour per thing, right? And there's a 100% success rate. And you can move these around to match what you have. I'm just looking at the volume metric. You can kind of see, okay, well, clearly there is this demand here that has, that flows into this, that has too much, demand put on it than capacity for it. It has more demand than it can handle. So we want to solve that, and we want to measure using this equation here to figure out what is this project worth to us. And so you might have a list of all of your tasks and projects and ideas somewhere, and you might have the due date or assignee or all the tasks, but how do you determine which one is the one that you want to do? Well, you use this equation. If you fix this and you get this, from 5,000 to 10,000, it just means that you have to 2x the capacity here because it can't handle more. It just simply can't. You could go straight to 20, if you 4x this, but if you do, and let's just say it doesn't cost you anything additional, I would recommend that. But let's say it costs you twice as much to get to 20 than it is to have a capacity of 10. Why would you do that? But just bear with me. Let's just say it's just fine. You can get this down. This is version 1, what it is now, and then version 2. You can now get this to handle 20 in one. Now you can go, well, I can have a flow of 20. Everything flows just fine. We have this flow here that I can improve. So the intention is good, but how do you measure all these things, all these different tasks? Well, what's the difference between here to here? That's an extra $5,000 per, let's say this entire system here is across, maybe it's per hour or per week, whatever is the cycle that you want to do to measure on. But to say, this task takes an hour to do, but then, there is this waiting period. And at the end, this entire thing takes about a week to do because there's all these waitings. This could be like a sales call. It could be that you're editing stuff and it takes time because there's a backlog. It just takes a week to get here. So we go from 5,000 to 10,000. That's a $5,000 difference. So we have this cost of delay of 5,000 per week. So if we go into your tool, you just make a single column, right? You just have an additional column, and then that's going to be your cost of delay by the cycle time. And you can have that be unified and say, we're just going to measure everything by a week. So if it's a cost per day, you multiply that by 7. If it's a monthly thing that you have, and you divide that by 4 to get, or whatever, to get to the monthly, to the weekly, right? So when you get down to this, you have this sort of problem where you might say, well, I have all these other ideas. Well, yeah, you have all these other departments before and after, but because you've measured all of these things, you can go and say, there's a constraint here. There's also, a constraint, there's a little bottleneck here and a little bottleneck here, but there is this large fucking constraint here where this is the biggest one. You could fix this, but it's not, if it's not going to increase this, it's not going to increase the throughput of the entire business. So why bother? You can highlight this and say, hey, there is a problem here, but if you do this right, everything might just say 0 for now, but it is a bottleneck. It is an area worth paying attention to. So like if this right here, this area can only produce, 20, this entire area could go from, 20 to 100. It's still not going to improve the throughput of this. It might actually make it more expensive or more profitable. It's going to be less profitable because all these resources and time is being spent in this area. Or you have another team leader who's, saying we can make more money over here because maybe he has some incongestion in here, which might help locally, but in the longest term, it might not work. So pay attention to like this sort of dichotomy of this is the biggest system area here, the biggest bottleneck for continued work. But if this does not help this, that should be where the, and if these guys can't help with this, then yeah, maybe just say, dude, do what you want. Just don't mess with this bottleneck here. Figure out if you want to smooth things over. But if if you stay at 20, that's the only thing that matters. If you want to be able to get your client, the results of your system to get, your 20 inside this as quickly as you can, that would improve the customer experience. That would be helpful. That would probably make the product cost more, but it's not going to get more units shipped. Same with all the departments after this system that's constrained. So going from this 10 or 40 or whatever going to here, there is this next cost of delay. You can see, oh well, we have 20 here, 10 here. We have another cost of delay of 10,000. So this project is done over here. It's done, and then now we have this negative 10K project that we ought to do next. And then we'll reach this point, by the end of this, where it's just completely smoothed out, where you're kind of massaging out the constraints outside of the system. And now this system is solved for now. It's done. Like if you wanted to, if the flow to this could be greater, right, the demand placed on this versus its capacity, as it starts to flow in here, you could say, hey, we're just going to double the capacity of all of this together or inch it up a little bit. You can't just like improve just one system. And that's kind of like what happens when you work with some companies. They'll say, we don't have a problem, but we can't make more. It's because they're trying to up this and it's not working because there's still constraints here. It's being aware of where the problem is and modeling out these flows that help you figure out not just where to spend your time, but how to make more money by working less. Like you're only working on one project at a time, and when you're done, you just move on to the next one. You should be crystal clear. And if you want to learn how to implement this as quickly as you can and use this on companies, then come check us out. Check out the link. We have a link to this public community. And if you want to learn how to do this or get a full-time role doing this for companies or learn the skill yourself, come check us out. See ya.